Hey guys, Timeboy601, and today we are back in World of Warships, and we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 4 American destroyer, the Farragut class, and this is a full review on it. So, like I said, guys, World of Warships, this is going to be a review on the Tier 4 American destroyer, the Farragut. So, what I would like to do with these ships is first dive into the real-life history before we go into the in-game stuff. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and head on in. So, the Farragut class of destroyers were named for David Glasgow Farragut, an admiral in the U.S. Navy during the Civil War, following the tradition of U.S. Navy ships for destroyers to be named after admirals. Of course, cruisers get named after cities, and battleships get named after states. The Farragut class is a class of 8 1,365-ton destroyers in the U.S. Navy, the first U.S. destroyer of post-World War I design. Their construction was authorized by Congress on the 29th of April, 1916, but the funding was delayed for so long that the Farraguts didn't end up being commissioned until 1934. These ships were slightly larger than their predecessors, faster, and they only had 2 stacks versus the common 4-stack design of earlier classes. The class was the first of 6 classes of 1,500-ton destroyers built during the 1930s that were used to modernize the United States Navy, and all 8 Farraguts saw extensive frontline service during World War II. None were lost in battle, only 5 survived the war though. After numerous incremental improvements, the 1,500-tonners were succeeded by the 2,100-ton Fletcher class, which of course is the Tier 7 ship in this game, which was not subject to the treaty restrictions that the Farraguts were. The Farraguts were a considerable improvement on previous destroyers, taking advantage of technological advances during the 12-year gap in destroyer production here in the U.S. The impact of aircraft on naval warfare was reflected in their large, heavy, dual-purpose main gun armament. They also had greatly improved machinery, greater fuel capacity that extended their range to 5,980 nautical miles compared to the Clemsons, which is the ship they took over from, 4,900 nautical mile range. Their larger size and improved habitability soon earned them the nickname of gold platers from crews of older destroyers. The list of desired improvements compiled from the operational experience of the earlier Wicks and Clemson classes was both long and comprehensive. Both classes had pointed sterns that dug deeply into the water, greatly increasing turning diameter. This was addressed with a transom stern design for the Farragut class. The previous classes were also flush deck designs. While providing good hull strength, this proved to be wet during high seas. This was addressed with the raised forecastle employed on the Farragut class. Cruising range on both the Wicks and Clemson classes had been a constant affliction of the commanders. The Clemson had been built with wing tanks giving better range, but at the cost of having high-mounted fuel oil on both sides, a kind of vulnerable feature in a ship with an armored belt such as a destroyer. The Farragut class corrected this range deficiency by having a design range of 5,980 nautical miles as opposed to the Clemson's 4,900. Steady improvements to both boilers and steam turbines in the years between the Clemson and the Farragut allowed this improved range, along with greater speed and a reduction from 4 stacks to 2. Now, the Farragut class destroyers were considered unstable in heavy weather and in turns. This was compounded by wartime modifications that made them even more top heavy. 2 of the destroyers, the Hull and the Monaghan, sunk as a result to a typhoon in 1944, and the cause of this sinking was in fact the top heaviness of the Farragut. So as far as service history goes, all the Farragut class ships were present during the attack on Pearl Harbor, where the Monaghan sank a Japanese midget submarine. 3 of the class were lost during the war. The 2 that we mentioned were lost. The Hull and the Monaghan were lost in a typhoon in 1944, and the Warden ran aground in Alaskan waters in January of 1943 and was deemed a total loss. The 5 remaining ships that survived World War II, well, they're broken down for scrap pretty shortly after the end of the war. After all, these were some ships that had seen better days by the end of World War II. So that is everything as far as history goes. Now let's go ahead and dive into the gameplay. For the Farragut, it is a tier 4 ship. You have one optional mod along the way. You can either go for a main battery modification or an aiming systems modification. The main battery modification, both of these mods cost 2,000 credits. With the main battery, you will increase your traverse speed by 15%, but you will increase the main battery reload time by 5%. As opposed to aiming system modifications, this is going to do a couple of things. One, dispersion of the main battery is going to go down by 7%. Torpedo tube's traverse speed is going to go up by 20%. Secondary battery firing range, which there really isn't much secondary battery on this, is going to increase by 5%, and dispersion of those batteries is going to decrease by 5%. Really, I went for this one mainly for the decrease in dispersion of the main battery and also torpedo tube traverse speed, because this ship has two inline torpedo tubes. This allows you to swivel the torpedo tubes from one side to the other relatively quickly compared to some of the other ships, and that is something that you may have to rely on when you're playing a destroyer and you get up close and personal with some enemies. Next down the line, you are going to get the Mark IV Mod 2 increase to your fire control systems. This is going to increase your firing range by 10% and your main battery firing range to 10.2 kilometers. After that, you're going to get the Farragut B hull design. This is going to increase your hit points to 11,920, your armor to 6 to 21 millimeters. You're going to have 5 main turrets, 2 torpedo tubes, and some additional AA mounts. And finally, you will be able to upgrade your torpedoes to the Mark 11 Mark IIs with some speeds of 88-second reload time, maximum damage of 11,733 per torpedo with a speed of 60 knots. Let's go ahead and dive into the loadout of this. Of course, you're going to have your high explosive shells and your armor piercing shells along with torpedoes. Your consumables, you'll have a damage control party. It's going to take about 5 seconds for it to take effect with a reload time of 40 seconds. You'll also have 2 uses of a smoke generator, which takes about 25 seconds to deploy. The smoke screen will last for 115 seconds, and it will take 240 seconds to reload. And your final consumable is an engine boost. It will allow you to temporarily increase the maximum speed of the ship by 8%. The consumable will last for about 2 minutes, and it takes 3 minutes to reload. You get 2 of them per battle. And finally, we're going to go ahead and run down all of the stats. A fully upgraded Farragut will have 11,920 hit points with an armor of 6 to 21 millimeters. The artillery, your main battery is 127 millimeter Mark 21 Mod 0. You'll have 5 of them. Your firing range is going to be about 10.2 kilometers. Your reload speed will be 4.3 seconds, and it will take them about 12 seconds to do 180. Your HE shell, your maximum HE shell damage is going to be 1,800 with a 5% chance to set fire, and your AP shells will do a maximum shell damage of 2,100. As far as your torpedoes, you'll have a 533 millimeter quadruple. You have 2 of those. They will take 84.5 seconds to reload with a 180 degree turn time of 6 seconds. Their maximum damage, like we said before, 11,733, and they'll have a detectable range of about 1 kilometer. Their range is going to be about 5.5 kilometers, and they will go 60 knots. Your AA defense, you have 2 12.7 millimeter Browning Mark II machine guns with an average damage of 8 per second and a firing range of 1.2 kilometers. You're going to have 2 20 millimeter Oerlikon Mark IVs with an average damage of 7 per second. Firing range is going to be 2 kilometers. And finally, you'll have your main guns of 127 Mark II Mod 1s doing an average of 16 damage per second when firing at AA with a firing range of 5 kilometers. Maneuverability, well, you're going to have a maximum speed of 36.5 25 knots. It'll take you 14.7 seconds to get up to 30 knots. Your maximum reverse speed is going to be 13 knots, and it's going to take you about 7.75 seconds to get up to there. Your turning circle radius is about 560 meters with a rudder shift time of 2.6 seconds. And finally, the strength of a destroyer is, of course, its concealment. Its detectability range at sea is 5.7 kilometers with a detectability range by air of 3 kilometers and a guaranteed detectability range of 2 kilometers. And guys, that's the Farragut as far as the stats go. It is a ton of fun to play as. I really enjoy playing the destroyers. It is an all-around kind of average destroyer everywhere. It's not going to be the most heavily armored. You're not going to have the most torpedoes. You're not going to have... There's nothing very special about the Farragut, but it is a ton of fun to use. And it's one that I really enjoy using. It's your average USA destroyer, good enough at everything, not excelling at anything. And if you like the destroyers as a playstyle, this is definitely one to go ahead and pick up. So guys, that is the Farragut. Let me know what you think of it down below. What other destroyers do you guys like? Let me know down in the comments below. Guys, if you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. My name's TommyBoy601. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.